Welcome to today's virtual workshop, 7 steps to 7 figures, or 7 mistakes businesses make when adding $1 million in revenue and how to avoid them. I'm your host, Jason Wally Waldron. I am a business growth strategist, author, speaker, and investor. And what I do is I help closely held, rapidly growing companies like yours use unique revenue generating strategies, which I'm about to share with you. And these strategies, while unique and unusual, they work. They're proven. Uh, for instance, we've recently had strategies that added 6 figures to a business in less than 72 hours. We've added 1.3 million in revenue in a 12-month period of time. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And very often, the people and businesses who apply my strategies, they break all their previous revenue records. And that's really what I want to share with you this evening. A little bit about myself. I'm known on the internet as an author, a speaker, and I've created courses to help businesses and their, um, really integrate a lot of the things we're going to talk about right now. And I'm also an investor in certain companies, privately held companies. And for instance, right now I'm an equity partner and an advisor to a plastic manufacturing company that's doing a little over 4.5 million in revenue a year. And I'm a revenue partner in a industrial sales and services company. And so oftentimes some of the folks that I work with while we start in an experience like what we're going through right now, a workshop or a learning environment, in certain instances, we end up going a very long way together, which is cool. And one of the other things, speaking of the very, keeping the end game in mind, one of the things that I do occasionally with a partner of mine is we'll take high average order value B2B businesses and help them get ready for exit. And that's really cool. It's about a 12 to 18 month process. And what it does is it really gives us a large frame to work from and then dial in some very, very specific actionable steps that we can bring to bear in your business. And so that is the perspective or the frame that I will be bringing to this presentation and this workshop as we look to bring 7 steps, share these 7 steps with you to help you create another $1 million in your business. And so as we get started, there's a lot of common questions that business owners, CEOs, really salespeople, operations guys, and common questions on the path to growing any business is really always, how can I gain more customers? How can I ethically eliminate my competition? And ultimately, most folks are looking to double their profits in the next 12 months. And what's cool is when you take these unusual but proven strategies to bear, you can do things like grow a local company 5,300% in a single year. You can do things like help a nationally known company, a nationally recognized company, add another $1.5 million in 12 months without spending more on marketing and advertising. And you can help a small business owner transform from a frustrated business owner to retired in less than 5 years. And so what I want to share with you is a little bit of the philosophy behind that as we go into, let's take a 30,000 foot approach for a moment, and let's go back actually to our friend Epictetus, and we're talking 2,000 years ago, where here's a gentleman who was really giving a lot of thought to the nature of reality, and he is one of the Stoic philosophers, and his thought was that happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. And ultimately, if you're on this workshop right now and you're benefiting from this, the happiness and freedom principle, who doesn't want happiness and freedom, right? And the truth is, if you don't, we're not aligned anyways. But really, the key to happiness and freedom is understanding what we can control and what we cannot. And so part of this philosophy is to gain clarity on the pieces of your business that you can control. And ultimately, the external marketplace is going to dictate a lot of things that are not in your control. And if you think about it for a moment, let's talk on a stair step approach for a moment. How do businesses grow and die? Well, you see here, businesses reach success and failure leaves clues. And so when we look at this particular graph, what you see is that 96% of businesses are under $1 million. So there's some markers there of that kind of business, and so they might be in seed mode, startup mode, even growth or hustle mode, if you will. But the thing about that type of business is often, you know, it's not a well organized business. It hasn't become a machine yet. And as your businesses start to grow and scale up, the business that looks sustainably above $1 million, which represents just 4% of all of the businesses out there, starts to have some structure into it, starts to have systems, starts to have a regular cadence to it. And then as you get up to $3 and $5 million there, which in this particular graph is represented in a tricky navigation area called the Valley of Death, how's your leadership bench doing? Maybe the founder has to step out and bring on a new CEO and things of that nature. And then you keep growing and growing and growing. And I want you to just notice for a moment that between each of these growth opportunities, between each of these changed businesses, transformed businesses, if you will, there's a thing called the Valley of Death waiting for you, and that's scary. And so the area that I often play in is somewhere between $1 million and more of revenue. And but if you see here, this is the early lower parts of those businesses. And the thing is whether you're getting capital, hustling, building systems, or maybe a division within your company is, right? Whether you're gathering employees to work the systems, optimizing and scaling your systems and business, or getting ready for the sale, or getting ready to scale out or grow bigger. Ultimately, you always have to find people who have been there and done that and gone on this journey at some level, and can bring that knowledge to bear to rapidly increase your results. And so, if we think about it, then essentially, what does that look like? Well, we want to generate more sales, do so at a profitable rate, increase those profits, reinvest those profits into scaling the business, and create a larger exit multiple. And my philosophy has always been that if you can build a business to sell, build it to scale first, build it to sell second, then you have options. You can become more passive in your business. Perhaps you can just have more time wealth, or maybe you do actually want to exit. And any of those types of scenarios, by continually practicing wise business practices and putting things that work into your business and installing systems and frameworks and concepts that actually work, then you're better off. And how we do that is to take outside experience of the marketplace over here and combine it with your unique wisdom. And when we do this successfully, it equals growth. And I want to talk for a moment about the inner game of the entrepreneur. Could be the inner game of the CEO, the inner game of the business owner. But it's interesting. The inner game of the entrepreneur, it's different than your average Joe. And if you're on this workshop, you're different than the average Joe. You're investing time with me right now. I'm investing time with you to share knowledge and hopefully wisdom that can be applied to your business. And so the inner game of the entrepreneur, if you look at this diagram that I drew up for you, you think about your goals in life, your goals in business, and you probably know pretty clearly where you're headed on a 3, 5, maybe even 10, 20-year trajectory. Where are you trying to get? Where's the top of that mountain for you? And at the same time, the world around you is messy, right? So that's that spiral. And, you're either going up in a spiral or you're going down in a spiral. And nature leaves clues. The spiral is fascinating. We are as we share this experience right now, we are hurtling through space on a small blue marble around the sun, and we are then in this circular pattern of orbits, and we are going into a spiral galaxy that is part of a larger universe. It's really amazing, right? And so that is part of the world that we exist in, whether we want to or not. And so you go back to Epictetus, and happiness and freedom only comes from understanding what we can control and what we cannot. So we have this inner vision that is so super straight line, but the reality is the day to day, sometimes we're moving in an upward spiral, and sometimes we have setbacks and we go down. And ultimately, the key is that every time we have one of those setbacks, that we avoid that valley of death, and we keep on moving up the spiral towards your goals. And so it's not your fault. That's really what I want to share with you. It's not your fault when you get frustrated, because the stress that you experience as a business owner, the stress that you experience in business is the gap between your straight line expectation and reality. And the bigger that gap is, the more stress there is. And so for a moment, we have to ultimately expect nothing and accept everything and go back to acceptance of what we can control and what we not. And so here's what I want to share with you. And this is huge. And if you go back to when the transistor was created, the transistor was invented in the mid 20th century. And what happened was Moore's law started to take effect. And Andy Moore from Intel said this. He said that the computing power, because of the transistor, doubles roughly every 18 to 24 months. And so if you're on this presentation, the fact that we're even having this conversation is all predicated on that, essentially. Computing power, knowledge power, everything like that. And so you have this exponential everything. That is the world we live in, right? Exponential data growth, exponential AI machine learning, exponential disruption around business models. And so technology is driving that, and things are going exponential. And at the same time, we have ourselves. We are flesh and blood. We have the lizard brain on the inside. We have the more social monkey mind, if you will, at the midbrain, and then we have the higher functioning of the right and left brains that make us human beings, and we can have this conversation. And when we interact, we can collectively, as an organization or a civilization, however you want to look at that, change at best at a logarithmic rate. And so if you think of the way that the S&P 500 is measured, for instance, it's the logarithmic rate, and it goes up and down usually around 8 to 12% a year, right? And occasionally drops off a cliff. And so that is a collective representation of our business world. And so organizations are changing at this slow and steady rate. Meanwhile, technology is throwing Moore's law into the world and changing these at an exponential rate. So what happens? What happens? Well, the gap widens over time, and eventually your organization requires a reset. And what I want to do here is put a stake in the ground and help you make sure that that reset is not called bankruptcy. Instead, I want it to be transformative for you. And if you don't believe me, here it is. Fortune 500 firms, 1955 versus just a few years ago. 88% are gone. And for the most part, we're all better off because of creative destruction. People are living longer, safer. Transportation is easy, and all sorts of good stuff. And so Seth Godin, who I am quite sure comes to us from the future, but that's a joke. He is a very smart guy, and he sees a lot of these businesses, and he lives in that exponential world. And what he says in the dip is winners quit all the time. They just quit the right stuff at the right time. And that's really where we have to go with this. And so you go back, and happiness and freedom. Happiness and freedom is created by understanding what is under your control and what is not. And so then applying this Winners quit all the time. They just quit the right stuff at the right time. How do we know what to quit? How do we know what to keep doing? Well, I will share one methodology of how we might get there. So if you're not happy or you're not feeling good about where you are with the gap, then it's time to change strategy, right? It's time to gap up, essentially. And what I want to share with you here for a moment is a very high level overview. And you can see I actually drew this up right before this presentation. It's the most organic and simple way I can explain this concept with you. But what this is this is a proven framework that has been evolving and being applied to businesses for nearly 20 years now. And I call it the Master Key Formula. And what this is a framework that allows you to simply, rapidly, and objectively figure out where the next $1 million is already hiding in your business. And so if you take a moment here, what it really is it's imagine that it's 6 gears, essentially. And when all the gears are working together, you create rapid results. And if you go back to that spiral analogy, imagine going around from traffic. And the traffic stack is where your leads are right now. Where are the people who haven't heard about you yet? Where are the people who you're barely on you don't have any mind share with them yet? They're out there somewhere, and they're looking for what you are offering and you and your business are offering. And then you bring them into this journey. You capture them through a prospect siphon, and you build this relationship with them. You do this as long as you need to, ultimately, and you start to build trust. So as you capture somebody, perhaps you do it in a CRM, perhaps you do it in an email marketing system, perhaps you simply pixel their website, and you start to stay out in front of them, and you start to build that relationship. How do you do that? Well, you start to enter the structured emotional conversation in their head, because ultimately we are just monkeys standing around a campfire telling each other stories. And so if you can build a message and build a system around this message that starts to take them from never hearing about you having a problem and searching for you, and then start to capture them in some sort of manner and build that relationship and tell those stories, over a period of time you can implement a trust building automated follow-up system. And there's many ways to do this. The simplest one that everybody knows is a regular email drip campaign that can go from now until a really long time from now. And ultimately, and there's many, many more, but ultimately what you're looking to do then is to take them through this conversion experience so that they went from not knowing about you at all to trusting you, understanding how you align and how you are the perfect solution for their problems, into the irresistible offer. And at that point, for instance, if you have a sales team, their burden is very low. They are simply adding to this conversation that has already been taken off of their plates. And they're closing deals, and they're making more profits for the business. And over on the operations side, you're looking to maximize your profits. So there's a couple different ways that we do that. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But I want you to just settle in with this and think about this customer journey. Because if you do a great job on the profit maximizer, you do a wonderful job of fulfillment. You make raving lunatic fans. Then what happens is it completes the circle, and they send more people back into your business on the traffic side. And as you complete that circle, now you start to go upward into that spiral and create that upward spiral that we're searching for. So if you're not happy with what your results are, or you know you can do better, you consider changing your strategy. And I think very many businesses out there right now are looking at doing that. So I go back to your question now, and I ask you, how big is your gap? Right? Many businesses have one or two of these items in place already. But when you put them all together in concert, the results are quite dramatic. And so I want to clarify something with you real quick. So this is a concept that I think is really important, particularly in today's business environment where you're seeing the culture around startups and around these non-revenue generating companies take over perhaps a little bit too much of the mind share, in my opinion. And so I want to take you through a journey on something called Runway. And so if you think about a startup company, there's a stat out there that I recently discovered, and I got it from a lady who runs an angel investing firm out in Chicago, and she shared with me that the most efficient amount of angel startup capital is $250,000, and I respectfully disagree. And let me explain why. Um, what you create with angel capital and startup capital is runway. Or put another way, it's you create time to market test and validate your idea. You create time to create minimum viable products. You create time to essentially um, pay your initial staff and yourself and get off the ground. And so, how does that go in real life? Well, okay. Uh, first let's say our run rate, as far as how much money we're losing, is $10,000 a month. Well, that means that essentially you have 25 months to go. Well, I'm going to take $10,000 away right away because you're a startup and you're going to have a leak in the bucket that you don't know about. So now we're down to 24 months. $10,000 a month times 12 is 12 or $120,000. 2 years of that is $240,000. So 6 months goes by, and we find out that our first idea and through our market validation that people are not quite as happy about what we thought we were doing. So we go, oh, it's time to put a new iteration of this out there. Time to pivot a little bit and change things. And then all of a sudden, 6 more months goes by, and we're already down to $120,000 to go, and we're a year into it. And it's a project, so things are taking longer than we thought. And we're discovering new things as we go, and things are getting more expensive than we thought because that's how projects often go. Now I have $120,000 in the bank, and I literally have a year's left of runway. And boy, that happened quickly. Well, how does that really go? I get 6 more months into that, and I'm not focused on my primary business at that point. I'm focused on raising my next round of capital, and so on and so forth. So I'm either going to go out of business because I was undercapitalized to begin with, or I am going to get really, really good at paying the Turk, so to speak, and losing control of my business because somebody else is going to own most of my business because I didn't have enough runway to get this thing going. And so I want to offer a different solution, and it's a lot more sustainable and it makes a lot more sense, I think. And imagine this. Imagine essentially figuring out a way to be your own investor in your business and to prudently create your own infinite runway so that you can maximize your own value of your business, but more importantly, stay in control of your life and your business. So there's two ways that we do this. We create infinite runway by creating more profits in the business. So go way over to the profit maximizer for a second. And there's two very common ways that we do this, and we very often walk into a business and say, hey, what do you have going on? We put it up against the framework and we optimize their marketing. And that works nearly every single time. I'll share some examples of that in a moment. The other way is, let's say that the marketing is pretty optimized. We're really, really happy with what we have going on. Well, then what we do is we increase the average order value through a whole lot of different proven methodologies. But ultimately, what have you created? Well, you've created a marketing budget out of thin air. So you can then go back and optimize your marketing even further or reinvest into that. And so either way, the important thing that happens here is this. It's your infinite runway. And so that's how it's done. You either optimize your marketing that is already working very well for you, or increase your average order value first and then reinvest backwards into better marketing. So it's really awesome when it works. And what I'd like to do here is share a couple examples of that with you now. So this first example of putting these methodologies in place. This was a B2B e-commerce company, and Um, when I found them, they were 3 years old at the time, and they were in the automotive space, and they were reaching one of those plateaus. So they were potentially teetering on the valley of death. And we put the master key formula into their business and unlocked numerous areas for growth. And how we went about doing this was we started with optimizing the conversion of their existing traffic sources. So you remember I was talking about marketing optimization. And then upon implementing these conversion strategies, which increased sales by 56.5% on day number one, so immediately, the company was able to diversify into other traffic sources and generate additional revenue streams. So over 12 months of us working together on this, they added $1.3 million in 12 months, and they are now on the Inc. 1000 list. And they have they've climbed past that initial valley of death. They are enjoying well over $3.5 million in revenue now, and profits continue to increase. And the conversion optimization was a 93% increase from paid traffic sources on day number one. Email open rates, they're higher than industry average, and their organic SEO rankings, which is a invest once and profit very much later type situation for almost forever. They continue to systematically climb, and that additional revenue puts them in ROI for under a year from our work together. So I love this story because there's just so much in there, and all we did was get objective about what they could control and what they could not control. Let me share another one with you. B2B Sales and Service Company. They generate leads that convert into $1 million deals while the salesperson is in the ICU. Okay, so this one's goofy but awesome at the same time. So we have a B2B sales and service company, and they're selling some pretty high ticket stuff. They're solving big problems for people, like people who you've heard of, NASA, Disney, the Navy, the U.S. Navy, right? And then a lot of other manufacturing companies that you probably haven't heard of. But I'm sorry, their salesperson is sitting there in the ICU. Here's what happened. He's in his early 50s, right? He is doing MMA, and he breaks his neck. So the reason I'm laughing is it's like, you should be doing that, right? But he's a tough guy. And so he is laying there in the ICU, but we have our systems in place. And so ultimately, originally the master key formula provided clarity on how to implement a steady stream of leads and marketing automation, and it was working for him. And so the sales team was already pre-framed for these large high-ticket sales. And so even though he was out of pocket and he was laying there with a sports injury, he received his leads, and he was working his leads from an iPhone. And he was able to take one of those leads and close them into a 7-figure sale over the next couple months. And, how about that? So even with a broken neck, the system that was in place that was optimized for his business was working for him. So kind of a goofy one, but I do really like that story because it's cool. It demonstrates what you can do when you're putting these pieces in place properly. This is another one that I think is cool. So we have a B2B robot manufacturer. And so these guys had this robot that was a proven product in the marketplace, and it was demonstrably better than their competitors. And yet they had no marketing strategy. They had very little web presence. It was a disaster. And as a result of this, they were really, when we started working together, they were frustrated and they're considering shutting the business down. So they were on that valley of death, right on the precipice. And so the master key formula was applied to the business, and it unlocked a roadmap to years and years of sales and sustainable growth. And here's what happened. It was cool. When the strategy was implemented, the company started to enjoy increased market share. And how we achieved that was we started driving sustainable organic SEO traffic. We put in automated list building functionality and high converting email follow-ups. So we took that traffic source, we started to build that relationship immediately the moment they hit the website, and put them into that trust building automated follow-up sequence as fast as possible. And what's cool is the company benefits from the occasional automated five-figure sale from this cold traffic off the internet. And so here, in most cases, these higher ticket sales, they're not just go to the internet, click 3 clicks, and then spend, 15K or whatever. But occasionally, if your marketing is done correctly, that will happen for you. And so, because most of the time, what happens, right? Somebody's searching for that solution, then they need to ask some questions, they need to get some budget for it. It takes longer. It's B2B. However, when you do get the occasional five-figure sale, here's what happened. I really like this story, actually. The CEO calls me up and he says, "Hey, is this thing real?" Is what real? What? It's like, check your email. I just sent you this receipt. And I said, "Oh, you mean is this receipt where you got a sale overnight without doing anything? Is this real?" He said, "Yeah, is that real?" I said, "Yeah, that's real." And he goes, "Really? Well, I got to tell you something. When you approached me about putting all this stuff into place, I never thought it would work." Huh. And he was so happy. And so he was mostly relieved. But it was awesome because they went from the brink of that valley of death, the brink of going out of business, to having money in the bank for the first time in many, many years. And they've continued to reinvest and grow the business. So we saved the business by putting these things in place. Here's another one, a B2B Industrial Services and Solutions company. So kind of another high-ticket situation where they needed to serve their sales team. They just didn't have enough leads and they weren't converting enough sales. So we took the master key formula, put it up against their business. We unlocked new profitable traffic sources and helped them with a new online marketing platform and really focused on that conversion. So the conversion went up immediately. And what was cool was just by putting that initial amount of machinery, if you will, in place, we built a system for them that led to a seven-figure sale in under 90 days. And so they're already, in the profit very, very quickly. And then now they just keep working the system. And it's awesome because it's installed and it's just working for them. So the company continues to close seven-figure sales regularly, and they're opening new markets on a regular basis. And it's pretty cool. These are the types of things that are available to you too. And that's really the point of this workshop, is to help wrap your mind around the possibilities of what you can do with your business and really open up some ideas and start a conversation in your own head about, where are my hidden profits? Where are my hidden opportunities? Where are the acres of diamonds in my own backyard? So I have to ask you again now that we've looked at this together a little bit. When you consider this and look at this, how big is your gap? And what is your reset trajectory going to look like? I'm going to ask you a question here for a second. And it's actually the first cornerstone. Tells me a lot about your business. And this is the question. Do you have a formal, funded marketing plan? The reason I ask this is the number one cause of business failure, businesses going through the valley of death rather than gapping up to the new reset, is not having one of these. And so if you own or control a growing business and you're looking to add another $1 million or more in revenue, then this might be the most important message that you'll hear all year. And so the premise is simple. If you're not happy with the results you're getting, it's time for a change. And most times that change is found through better strategy. And most times that better strategy comes from a combination of your own unique wisdom and the catalyst provided by that trusted outside perspective. And we've all been there. Often the owners and the CEOs of businesses, they don't spend any considerable time working on the business from a 30,000-foot perspective. What happens? We all know what happens. You get caught working in the business. You go from a proactive stance to a reactionary stance. And because of that, you lack strategic initiatives. You, you lack you lack things that are going to move the needle in the right direction. You experience blind spots. You stay stuck at that level. So I ask you, do you have a formal funded marketing plan? If yes, congratulations. We can help you optimize that. If no, we've got a problem and we need to talk. So the Master Key Profit Accelerator is what I would like to share with you right now, and it is the proven methodology through which we have helped companies for nearly 20 years to discover the $1 million already hiding in their business without spending more on marketing and advertising. And it's a 5-step experience delivered in a number of different ways, which we can discuss if this is a good fit for you. But I want you to get a sense for what we do. First, we achieve clarity and alignment on your direction. Where are you going up that spiral? And secondly, we look for new sources and leads of leads and revenues. So everything from the acres of diamonds in your backyard all the way to places that you didn't even know existed. And in doing so, we find ways to free up cash in the business to fund growth, to create that infinite runway so that you can safely invest in your growth and predictably invest in your growth, not just throwing stuff against a wall and hoping it sticks. And then from there, we create the Master Key Marketing Blueprint, which is an asset that your business can grow from for many, many years. And then finally, we roll out your 12-month profit plan and implementation roadmap. And when I talked about your unique wisdom and my marketplace expertise and my company's marketplace expertise, this is the tangible result of that, is creating and co-creating the 12-month profit plan and implementation roadmap. Because when I say that we're creating an asset in your business, there's a range of outcomes, and everything from helping your marketing director have clarity and setting that person up for success so that your business is set up for success, all the way over towards you having a virtual fractional CMO on hand who has an entire organization underneath him to bring resources to bear to grow your business. And there's no one size fits all here. It's really about that perfect combination of your unique wisdom and our experience brought to bear. And what's cool about this is, we can solve the marketing conversion question once and for all. We can prepare your business for a high value exit if that's something you want. We can free up your time by systemizing and delegating things, right? Helping your team create that ownership. Ultimately, we're looking to help your business thrive. Maybe you want to pass it on to your kids or relatives. Can help you overcome the obstacles in your business, things that are preventing you from growing as much as you'd like. Drive demand to your company. I'm here to help you tap into high-level resources and experts who can create quantum growth in your business. And ultimately, it's all about your business. We're looking to unlock your profits and unlock your potential. So what I would invite you to do is, if you believe that you and your business are a good fit for this particular program, I would like you to email our team at discover@masterkeyprofits.com and consider, just tell us a little bit about your business. Give us a sense for your top line revenue, how many people are working in the business, what are you selling, what are your top 3 products and services that you're selling, maybe a range of how big your average order value is, and what your biggest challenges are. And just give us a sense for the lay of the land, and we'll have a conversation if it's a good fit. We'll find out if you're at a good place to go through the accelerator. And this is the first step. We'll always leave you better than we found you. The whole purpose of this entire introduction video is to leave you better than we found you. And so the email is discover@masterkeyprofits.com. The phone number 970-217-2642, and share a little bit about your business, and we will look forward to hearing from you. And again, that's discover@masterkeyprofits.com. The phone number is 970-217-2642, And this is the next step to discovering the $1 million that's already hiding in your business without spending more on marketing and advertising. I appreciate you investing this time in your business and your development. And if this seems like a good fit for you, I look forward to hearing from you.